everybody, and welcome to another CT versus Audio interview. In this episode, I talk with Eel People, the indie pop project of Thurstan and Matt Falkowski. These two songwriters are preparing to release their biggest album yet at the end of the month, January 2020. In this interview, we're going to be talking about that album, A Preliminary Display of Tomorrow's Grievances, and talk about how that record is different than any of their other previous records. If this is your first time checking out Eel People and their music, I highly recommend exploring their older records, at least after you've checked out their new stuff. Both Thurstan and Falkowski have 3 full-length records apiece, and they all span kind of one wild and crazy year. Falkowski's trilogy is Pluto Boy, Bad Posture, and Paint, and Thurston's is new hit record Forgiving My Humanity and A Posh and Destructive Cycle, which is recorded under the name Eel People. And you can find all that on Spotify and Bandcamp. The song you heard there in the intro, that is I Thought I Was Misunderstood, but I Misunderstood. That was one of my very favorite songs of 2019. All right, so let's just jump right into it. This is my interview with Matt Falkowski and Rex Thurstan of Eel People. All right, here with me today, I have Eel People. So I am speaking with
Rex Thurstan
and Matt Falkowski.
Cool. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. How are you?
I am always fantastic, but thank you for asking. So I like to start each of these off with the same question, which is, what is your favorite place in Connecticut? And I don't mean a venue. It can be a venue, but if there's anywhere like a favorite hangout spot or anything like that holds a special place to you in Connecticut.
Yeah, I can start this one. So it goes by 2 names. I just call it the Reservoir, but I live in Manchester, and there's this reservoir behind my house that I just always like to walk to. I think it's either called the Howard Porter Reservoir, or the Ferguson Reservoir. I'm not sure, but it's a very serene spot.
Yeah,
nice place to. I feel like you've been there before.
I have. It's gorgeous. I mean, for me, it's always been. I'm near this airline trail. It's around Grayville. It's this really beautiful trail, and it goes all the way into Willimantic. And a lot of my music I wrote just walking on that trail and biking. And back when I used to exercise and actually run, that was a lot of where I spent my time, was outdoors in the airline trail. It's beautiful.
So you both it seems like you're kind of attracted to these quieter places.
I'd say so. Yeah. Why is
that?
I don't know, but I actually kind of thinking about it now. Well, I have noticed every time we kind of finish a project or something, a lot of times it will usually be really early in the morning. I remember with Bad Posture, we finished at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and we were just kind of driving around until we found a nice looking spot.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but we always
parked
just
at the airline trail and listened to Crooked Smile.
That was
when we first made Crooked Smile and this is Matt's music. We parked at the airline trail and listened to all of Bad Posture. It's just a good nature and the right time for lighting. It just really kind of eases me personally. It's just really alleviating, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. The only reason why I kind of probed on that is because I feel like some people kind of like the hustle and bustle side of Connecticut. They like being in New Haven. They like being around people, but it sounds like some of the places that you are kind of getting away from some of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I like a nice combo,
Yeah. I'd say I'm the type of person who I love to be in New Haven, doing all that stuff. And then I don't know. I'm the type of person who I'll be very extroverted for a little bit, and then I need to compensate by being away from everything.
Yeah, recharge your battery.
Yeah,
your social battery.
Okay, so if anybody needs to recharge their batteries, show up to Matt's backyard and check out the Howard Reservoir.
Pull up.
Matt'll make you a cup of coffee.
Okay, cool. So another easy question I'll throw to you. Do you believe that people are fundamentally good or fundamentally bad?
No.
I know it's a false dichotomy. I know that, I know that it's not fair to have you.
I think moral absolutism is an unfair concept because people are people, no one's inherently good. No one's inherently bad. I consider myself a good person. but I've also made a lot of mistakes in my life.
Sure.
You know, and I don't know. I think that like people are so complicated, and it's hard to like box them into. I don't know.
Yeah.
Max, what do you think?
I'm always really fascinated by I always just found like humans to be just humans. Like it's really that simple. Like we don't do this. We're very, habitual, and, we're not perfect. I couldn't just decide. I don't think anyone has the right to decide who's good and who's not, like it doesn't feel right to me.
Okay. So then to phrase the question slightly differently, do you think that like, if somebody's left to their own devices, and let's say that society and like those kind of expectations are not a factor, do you think that people will ultimately end up doing more altruistic things that are, like on the good side of the spectrum, or that they would?
Right. Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's hard because
that's a great question.
Because I think humans are a lot of the time very like just intuitively altruistic, but then a lot of the time they're the complete opposite, very selfish creatures, and so it's almost like I don't even know.
Well, also like I mean, for a lot of people, like looking out for themselves. I mean, there are people who are more empathetic than others, and like I think that there are like a lot of people who kind of like looking out for themselves as being more closed off, and looking out for themselves is also taking care and like nurturing. So I think, like even selflessness is something that's so, I think, difficult to quantify, because there's just so many aspects for it. Like I could do something like really nice for Rex that was entirely to satisfy myself. I don't know. I don't want to believe that people are inherently bad in any way, shape, or form. But like, I just think it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fair enough. So I was listening to, so Rex was on Acid Cat Radio, just like a week ago or so.
So great.
Yeah. So shout out to the folks is it Spray Bottle Fever? Is that who runs?
Yes.
Cool.
Joe and Connor, good guys.
I got a little bit of kind of a primer on your history as Eel People. So it sounds like, if I remember correctly, that the story kind of begins at someone's funeral. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so the two of you reconnected, over that. And so what happened after that? Like, what spurred you meeting this kind of chance, very tragic encounter to come together and kind of reconnect and make music?
So I was, kind of a wreck after we lost this individual, and I was really just kind of like starting to get into writing music. And I was going to like the Arts Academy in Hartford at the time. And we had to do like this capstone project, and I just chose like music therapy, not because I really had any like significant interest in it, but just because I was like, whatever, I'll choose something that has to do with music. And I ended up deciding to like throw a show in my basement. And I had never like really been to a show before, like anything like that. I just kind of like wanted to make it happen. And I remember that like Rex had this like instrumental post-rock project that I had heard, and I, checked out their Bandcamp, and it had this project called Sex and Fake Cigarettes, which was Rex and their brother. I was just like, hey, come play in my basement. And what ended up happening is Rex's brother couldn't make it. So there's like, can I just play, some of my own songs? And I was like, sure.
Yeah, and they were like fresh. Like I didn't record them or anything. I wrote them, I think, like the day that you set this house show up. It was like I was just starting to figure out how to sing. Really, like it was like this house show where I found out that Matt was like making this album, Pluto Boy, and we basically like Matt just was having like issues trying to record, just because of like lack of equipment, and because I had something that like I had the equipment that Matt needed. Like I just decided to, work with Matt. It just felt right. We just knew that we should collaborate. And that really began with Pluto Boy and recording that debut release of Matt. And it was, it really started with that house show, I think.
And so just for listeners that haven't like caught up with like the Eel People history, at this point in time, Rex is Eel People, and Matt, you're just Matt Falkowski.
People didn't exist yet, though.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it was just Rex. It was just Rex Thurstan, like on like Bandcamp, and most of it was instrumental, like bad post rock. So Birth was like mediocre post rock with like MIDI drums.
Don't knock MIDI drums.
Like the Portland Kit and Logic. The Logic nerds listening. It started with that, and then like Matt really kind of just like taught me like how to like sing and like vocalize the lyrics that I was coming up with. And Eel People really started when I was in sophomore year of high school, and I was in like a bad breakup, and I wrote New Hit Record, and then Matt was like, dope.
And so this is 2018 when this happens? Okay. All right. So New Hit Record comes out, and so this is that's the first Eel People record, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, how do you feel about that record now?
It's really funny. Matt and I talk about this all the time. It was just last year. It was just like recently, that album. But it feels like it was a decade ago. To me, it feels like it was so long ago. And I don't know why. I can't begin to figure out why it feels like so far away. Like distant. And, honestly, like I don't hate it, but I see that I've changed. I see that I've really like moved on from a lot of the things that I used to do as a songwriter, and my influences have changed all the time. I'm always grappling onto new artists and pulling influence from new bands, and I really do think it's not bad, but like if I had to sort of like rate it, like I'm always criticizing that album as sort of being like, it's just my first time producing something, so it was really like it was just my first shot. But I guess I look back on it and I think, I thank God I tried, because I still feel like I'm improving and I'm still trying to get better. There's so much to improve on. There's so much to learn, but at least I did that. I'm so glad I did that. I just feel grateful that I like tried to do that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Whenever you were talking about how you moved on from a songwriter, can you think of like specific examples of what you mean by that?
Like little details of like maybe something like production habits of mine when I was like making New Hit Record was one thing I couldn't seem to get away from, was keeping songs in the same key. The first half of New Hit Record, one of the problems with it is that the first half of it is actually just in the same key. I believe it's just C. Minus I Feel Like a Loser. So I just felt like there was something about my repetition that I was conscious of that I was not reading. I wasn't really trying just yet enough.
That's like a really kind of like frustrating thing to deal with as a songwriter, is to like just like put your blood, sweat, and tears into a song and then just like kind of have the feeling that to some degree this sounds like something either I've already created or someone else has already created. Yep. Because like it's almost always entirely unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's so shattering. It's like no one's ever trying to copy themselves or someone else,
And there was something so pulling about being consistent. Like I wanted it to be like you listen to this album and every song sounds like the last one, but it's progressing off of it. Like I wanted it to be sort of like a medley. But how I've changed from that time in my life is just trying to make every song a completely new landscape. I want to like make a new landscape every time. And I think that was one of like the biggest transformations for me as a songwriter, was sort of like, basically you have to look in the mirror. Like you have to. Mm-hmm. It's hard sometimes, but it helps.
So Matt, you just celebrated the 1-year birthday of Pluto Boy. Do you feel similar feelings about that record?
Yes and no. I mean, like one thing I will say that, is really interesting hearing Rex talk about New Hit Record is that, like, when I heard New Hit Record, like as a whole piece for the first time, one of my like instant thoughts was like, wow, I wish I was in this band. So even though like Eel People, like even before I joined, had improved so much since that record was like so kind of like, I think important for, like, I still go back to it a lot. And with Pluto Boy, what's really interesting about it is kind of like going to the beginning of the question about like changing as a songwriter. I've been working on like Pluto Boy in different iterations, and to the point it was released for about like 4 years. Like there were like 3 different things that I had kind of like recorded and quote unquote released that I had called Pluto Boy that just like was not it. So, what
do you mean by that?
Well, so I had, when I was in high school, I had like one, it was like a 6-song EP. I think it's still on my Bandcamp. It's called Elegy. And then I kind of like reworked all of these songs around the concept that fit into Pluto Boy. And I recorded like 2 different versions of that. And I knew absolutely nothing about recording, so nothing I ever really felt kind of like confident releasing. So I would put it on my Bandcamp for about a week, and then I would take it down, and then I would do it over again, and I just like do the same thing. So even though like I love the way Pluto Boy sounds, it kind of felt like I was like putting to bed a chapter of my songwriting and able to kind of like start something new, because I had just, had recorded these songs and been sitting with them and just been like, I still didn't really feel happy with them. But when we finally actually got to record them here, it was the first time like any song I'd ever written sounded remotely like it did in my head.
Okay.
So I'm still like, I'm kind of in the headset of like, it's still wild to me that any of my music exists recorded.
Yeah. So it sounds kind of like in some ways that Pluto Boy was something you had to get out of your system. And once you could move on to do other things. Does that sound fair?
Oh, definitely. I mean, like we finished Pluto Boy, and I think like a few weeks later, I came to Rex and I was like, I have this idea for another album. It's called Bad Posture. Like, I don't know.
That's the thing. Like we say that like Pluto Boy was something you had to get out of your system. But like, I was just going to say that like, it's really interesting to me that you and I have 3 albums. Like we both just like made 3 albums. And while I was like helping you record those, I was also making the trilogy for Eel People. Mm-hmm. So I think it was like we both had to get 3 albums out of our system before we could officially write a song together. So we like finished all 3.
It was 3 albums exactly.
And then we both wrote this song called Close Your Eyes. Mm-hmm. And there is actually like voice.
Which is not on the...
Yeah, no, it's not on the album. It's not on the release, but it's like there is like audio that will be available as part of like some of the promotional material for the new for the preliminary display of Tomorrow's Grievances. That is just us writing for the first time. It was really like difficult. It took us like hours to like really find exactly what the process was for us.
Well, in a way, because like we've been trying to write that song for like maybe 3 years, and
we're
like,
still writing it.
We could not finish the song together, and then one day it just like kind of like we just had like we were just like, let's write an album, and then it felt like we hadn't like even really started, and then it was just like done. It was strange. It was weird.
Wait, so where in 2019 are we talking about?
Like right after Paint was done, I'd say. So
Okay.
we've known that I had joined Eel People in like August.
Yeah.
And then we released Paint, and then like right after that, we just kind of started like working and writing together a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, like even in like the past couple of weeks, there's been times where like we've like, you know, found a new song that like, you know, we had just kind of like started and didn't really like quite finish, and you know, that actually ended up making it to the album cut, which is cool.
Right. So before all of this, whenever you're both, it sounds like you're both collaborating, but not necessarily writing together on this, what you've called like a trilogy of albums, right?
On the
first.
So like our first 3 albums, you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, the production behind Matt Falkowski,
All Rex. All of the like cool, any like cool guitar thing that happens on any song that I've released, all the like drums, except for Don't Hit Me Up and Pluto Boy, that was Harmony Gregory.
We had some collaboration, but a lot of it was just Matt and I, and Matt wrote the songs, and I just recorded Matt, and then I do like drum takes and, you know, guitar sometimes, and then I mastered a lot of it. But then like for me it was, and then I just did the same thing but just alone as Eel People. And I had just like begging Matt to join, but we weren't ready. We weren't ready yet. Neither of us, even though I wanted it so bad and I knew Matt wanted it, we weren't ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, no, we did that. We wrote those songs alone.
Okay. And so you were saying that you tried writing though, but that it wasn't working. Like what about it wasn't working, and why is that different now?
I think it wasn't that it like wasn't really working, but it was that we were both kind of like, I think that I can, at least speaking for myself, I was definitely kind of like caught up in where I felt like, and like what I kind of felt like I needed to like write and get out for my own expression. Like I was like, you know, I don't know, like now I'm in the space where I'm, you know, working on a solo project of my own, but I still feel like I can definitely write a song and be like, this song is definitively like an Eel People track. And I felt like I maybe couldn't make that like differentiation before. And like, I just kind of like, I don't know, like maybe I just need to validate myself by having my own discography a little bit.
And I think for me, what was the troubling thing is, and I think I can speak for Matt on this, is that when you first write a song with somebody, you realize that, and if this is like once you figured out what you like about your music, you found something you like about your music, and you know what you want from your songs, you know, when you can kind of just start spitting out songs, you get to, and you start writing with somebody else, there is this communication where chemistry is the only thing that matters. If there is no chemistry, there will be no song. And if it does come out, if you really try, like maybe it'll be good if you both are, you know, dedicated enough. But there is this thing with Matt and I, where the first time we wrote a song, we both were trying to compromise for each other out of respect for one another, and we both like each other's music. But, you know, I've said this before, I think Matt and I listen to the same type of music. It's just that we listen to different artists, and our influences guide us in different directions. So our music on this album is really, on this new album we're releasing, really shows, really demonstrates how we communicate as songwriters to each other.
Mm-hmm. And I think also in that way, how like kind of different our songwriting is.
Yeah.
Which I think like, I don't know. I think that's probably the biggest like change about Eel People, is that like with this new project, like you can definitely hear that there are 2 songwriters, even when we're like collaborating on a song where you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell
who's doing what,
like who quote unquote takes the lead, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, there's still, and the thing is, it's like, there's still going to be songs that, that will come up on the new release, where it is just me, but the song was like shown to Matt and before it was finished, and Matt helped like direct a lot of those songs. So like even when it's like one of us wrote the song more than the other one, you know, when it's sometimes a little uneven like that, it's still a collaboration. It's still a Falkowski Thurstan piece, if you will. And that's one thing I was like realizing is that it doesn't always have to be, you know, completely even in that sense, because it still comes out as something you would have only done knowing that person as a songwriter.
So is it like a, I don't know, like whenever I listen to the new songs, I have a tendency to think that whoever is singing most of the words is the one that, you know, like started the song structure first. Mm-hmm. Is that like, so like thinking about like Terrify or Don't Ask Me, I'm Trying, I usually think of those as more like Falkowski.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Definitely. There are some songs, I don't know how much of the album you have access to currently, but like there are some songs that are definitely, like there are a lot of songs that just kind of started out as like a guitar loop and then another guitar loop and then just kind of like building different things on top of each other.
Where Matt and I like, switch on and off with the guitar and just
cool.
respond to each other with it. And
there's a few songs actually where we just kind of like wrote like just as like exercises, we kind of like wrote lyrics for each other and then like had the other person go up and sing them. And then like that was a cool way where we could listen back to it and be like, okay, how could we make the melody here like a little more interesting? Does this line work with this line? Mm-hmm. Just kind of like different ways that we'd like kind of like test around the songs.
So, and I'm going to play like armchair psychologist for a second. Like,
of course.
I get the sense that the two of you are great friends and great collaborators, but I get the sense that there's a little bit of competition. Is that true?
I wouldn't say so. I think that there's a lot of perceived competition.
Okay.
Sometimes, but like, I don't know.
And I don't mean this in a negative way at all. I just mean like in a...
No, for sure. But like this is actually something that I'd say like people kind of...
So whenever we're talking about these trilogies that you release separately, do you feel like your respective trilogies have a story that they tell across their arc?
Like, is there a narrative behind it?
Not like a literal narrative, you know, like I don't mean like a concept record, but like, do you think that tracing, for example, Pluto Boy to Bad Posture to Paint, that tells some story about you as a songwriter, or the same for you, Rex, with New Hit Record, Forgiving My Humanity? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like I totally, like I remember with kind of like Pluto Boy, Bad Posture, and Paint, I told myself like these are 3 albums about death, but just like in a different way.
Okay.
And like, you know, like I remember like when I wrote Bad Posture as opposed to writing Pluto Boy, I was like, all right, how can I kind of like give myself like little challenges to, I don't know, like how can I challenge the way that I've been writing about sometimes what I feel like is the same thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, one of the reasons I think Matt and I get along so well as songwriters is that our like intuition to kind of what we immediately write our songs about is so similar. It's not the same, but it's like it's the same kind of impulse. It's to heal. It's to help ourselves understand what's kind of going on in our brain. Right. And with New Hit Record, I kind of just wanted to make an entire album about like where my self-esteem was. So it was really just sort of like a snapshot of where I am. But then Forgiving My Humanity wasn't a snapshot at all. It was like, it was sort of like declaring how I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Like it was like kind of the most depressing moment of me as a songwriter, because I mean, the title of the album is completely based off how I can't do that and how it's like hard to forgive like what you're learning about yourself. And when you don't necessarily like it, like self-esteem is just such a common obstacle for people. And so it's, you know, I knew that if I write about this, you know, I was hoping somebody would hear it and, you know, relate. And I was hoping that it would help heal you too, you know, like, it's just talking about like grief a lot. And then Posh and Destructive Cycle is sort of just like how I'm just like never gonna get out of the three, like they kind of like are meant to be listened to, like from New Hit Record to Posh and Destructive Cycle and then back to New Hit Record. And it's just like this never ending battle of just being a human and trying to be a human the right way, or whatever that even means.
Well put.
So it sounds like both of you kind of get some self-exploration out of writing music.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you want listeners to get out of your music?
That's such.
Do you think about that? Do you think about that at all?
All the time, for me at least.
I think about it, but it's kind of more like just like I'm wondering like I don't know, like when I'm just like, you know, hear people respond to a song that's like, life's fucking awful, I'm so sad, that I have written. I'm just kind of like, I'm wondering exactly what people are getting out of it. Like, is it understanding? Is it empathy? Like, I just don't know.
Right.
I think like that's one of the things that I think about a lot, but I'm not sure how it like consciously affects
what I'm
writing, because I don't like, that's the thing.
You don't know. Yeah.
Like, I just like, I don't know. I guess I just want people, like, I want people to like it, but at the same point, there's a part of me that's like, am I writing for people to like it, or am I don't know.
I mean, like, that's so.
I know it's not necessarily the question you asked.
No, but it kind of is. It kind of is.
It is. Yeah. No, it is. But I totally know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Where you just don't. It's kind of daunting to try to like exhibit like what you want people to actually like, how you want people to respond, because people are going to respond however they're going to respond to it.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I guess for me, like, if I could sort of bend that a little bit, it would be more about like what I want the music's purpose to be for people. Like I just wanted to make music that would make me feel better and make me feel more human, and make me feel, just assure me, like kind of assure, like just that. But like, I guess, you know, you can't always do that and you can't expect that to happen. So it's sort of like, yeah, that's what I would want. I would want people to hear an Eel People song and then just feel a little bit better, I guess, about them.
How do you feel about what Rex just said, Matt?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I kind of like, I got into the headset of like thinking about how to answer this question in the context of like, kind of like, what do I look for when I'm listening to music? Like, what am I trying to like specifically like get out of it? And and it's interesting because I feel like I could name so many like incredible things that I get out of music that I'm not necessarily like searching for. And I don't know. I think it's a very good point. I mean, I would definitely say that I would also want people to listen to a, you know, like something that I made and like feel better. You know, I definitely can relate to that.
I like how you're talking about it though, because I think that's something I'm trying to like,
it's hard to articulate.
Yeah, exactly. That was, like articulate exactly what I
do want people to dance. I definitely want people to want to dance.
That's easy. Yeah.
I want,
and you can tell. I mean, like, you can tell just by listening to any of Matt's songs, like just like the time signatures, the tempos, like a lot of the time, like generally speaking, Matt wants you to dance. Like just based on the drum beats, you know?
Yeah.
I haven't actually like thought about it like that, but yeah, that totally makes sense. Like whenever, especially like Bad Posture, whenever I think about a lot of those songs, they are up tempo usually. and it feels like I can imagine Matt dancing on stage as they're singing that stuff.
Thank you. That is
interesting. So next time I go to your shows, I'll have to put on the dance moves.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
So one of the things that's because I've seen y'all play a couple of times live, and I'm really fascinated by the way that you both translate your music to a live format, because it's not always what you get from the studio, right? Like a lot of the music that you make, sometimes it does have overdubs or it does have piano.
I'm so excited that you're asking this question.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me about, like, how do you approach translating something live?
Panic. So listen, like there's no doubt that the music that we record is just disgustingly layered. I can tell you right now, one of the songs is about 120 layers in the studio.
Wow.
Project, and some of that is just like 10 different guitar loops, 10, and then like 10 different percussion, and then sometimes there's like 2 bass tracks. Like, so yeah, it's when we're like we got a gig coming up, and then we just oh shit. So we look at each other and we try to make a set list happen, and a lot of the times it's like, it's just Matt and I, but more recently we did induct a new member for drums, and before everyone, and it was just me, and I had to do an Eel People gig. I was like so anxious because it was like I either chose to just go acoustic guitar and arrange everything into like a good example would be No One Tastes Like You. When I play that one live, the original version is like this, electronic pop song. Like it's very layered. It's got, many guitar layers on it. But then when I play it live, I have to do it acoustically. I don't have a choice. If I did backing tracks like I used to, it's just going to be a technical difficulty adventure. It's just gonna, it's terrifying. So what I ended up doing was I took a note from this guitarist, Andy McKee. Are you familiar with Andy McKee?
I don't think so.
Do you know Michael Hedges, perhaps?
No.
So these are like...
Are they from Connecticut?
No, these...
okay, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. They're not from...
They were the first 2 acoustic guitarists that kind of inspired me to start making music. And it's because they combine melodic, harmonic, and percussion songwriting on the acoustic guitar and nothing else. So they play the guitar like a drum set and like a guitar, but they don't even strum most of the time. They're just hammering on the neck. It's kind of like math rock if it was one instrument. So yeah, with No One Tastes Like You, I basically just took a note from these guys, and I wrote the lead guitar part and the rhythm part into one tab, and I basically play No One Tastes Like You lead guitar and rhythm guitar at the same time in this like drop D tuning, so that I can capture the song, but it ends up being stripped down more. So like my end goal for Eel People is that it's a full band. It has to be, because of how much we do in production and how much we add. It is quite like a difficult process stripping it down. And getting the key parts of each song into a stripped down acoustic or full band version. There have been 3 cases where we've had like an actual full band representation of Eel People. And one of those times was Nate Porter from Night Crew and Jackson Donovan from Gold Flame.
And he was an artist.
Yeah, and he was an artist.
Right,
oh yeah,
right.
And, that was really eye-opening to hear a version of it where it's like, we got a bassist, we got a drummer, learning the songs. And then Matt and I more recently at Caravan had a bit of a troubling gig with backing tracks. And it wasn't bad. I wouldn't say it was just like we definitely had some technical difficulties translating this music into backing tracks where we could play guitar over it. And, you know, it's a whole journey.
Also, I will say that like a lot of my experience in Eel People so far is like, I think that I'm pretty good at coming up with cool guitar riffs. However, playing them live is like a different story for me. There's this one track, Nighttime in the Morning, which I'm very excited for everyone to hear. And I wrote this like really, I wrote what I think is a pretty cool guitar riff over like rhythm guitar that I also laid down. But I definitely, you know, like, you know, it's, you know, it's moments like that. It's like, it's difficult to find out what exactly can we like relay live. And thankfully for that example specifically, Rex is a guitar wizard and figured it out. But like I'd say there's definitely like a lot of things where it's, you know, we're kind of like recording and in the process, it's like, you know, what do we want to include? And like, what do we think we wouldn't want to include purely for the sake of, we don't know how well we'd be able to translate this live.
Yeah. A lot of canceling out basically.
So I will say that like, and I know that like, it's just my opinion, so it doesn't matter that much. But that's one of the things that I find fascinating about your live shows is the way that the studio and the live versions differ. So like I remember specifically like it was before Matt was in the band. Whenever I think it was the He Was an Artist release show in New Britain. And I think Rex played We Don't Have to Die. Which is a very layered and kind of an electro pop song. Yeah. But it was like stripped down and turned into an acoustic song. And I remember thinking like, this is so cool that there's like, not only, you know, the song that I really love, but now there's like another version of it. So it's kind of like there's two songs that I love now, you know?
Thank you.
Well, I think that definitely kind of one of the things we've talked about in live performances is if we cannot recreate what we have in the studio, then we want to like, and of course this is before I was like in Eel People, so I can't like speak to this specific performance, but kind of being like, what can we offer the audience for this one song that like how can we present this Eel People song in a way that you'll never hear it again?
Okay.
Which I think is like, I don't know. I think that's like the like the theater background in me being like, you know, first time every time. But
yeah, I mean, with the thing is like, it's not so hard to like translate the song into acoustic guitar because I'm very consistent in how I come up with chord progressions, and whether it be piano or guitar, I can kind of just throw them back and forth. And you know, with We Don't Have to Die, I figured it's full of loops anyway, so I can probably just use the same chord progression on guitar with this open tuning and then loop a lot of the stuff that I did piano and like ambience and a lot. Honestly, it's just a matter of like, can I bring the ambience from the song and the chord progression? Because every Eel People song is like a chord progression, like with a drone over it, and then like a drum beat, and then, you know, Matt or I singing. So yeah, it's really just like the thing that I'm missing with my live performances right now is bringing that like loudness, bringing the whole orchestration, I guess, of every instrument being there with the live performance to make it like what I really want. Okay. But I'm so glad that you enjoyed that. Because I was having a lot of trouble actually at that gig trying to kind of feel good about what I was hearing. So I'm really glad that it came across how I was trying to get it across. Thank you.
So Matt, you briefly mentioned your theater background. One of the things I've been like really curious about ever since I learned that you had a theater background was in what ways do you feel like that informs your songwriting? So, because you can tap, right?
I can tap. I definitely, I did like 2 years in college in Boston for theater. And I think that like in a lot of ways, just kind of like figuring out how to be on stage, like kind of like how and when to pull focus and like handle that focus. I think that helped me a lot. For me, definitely when I was actually in theater school, like I really kind of like, I didn't feel like everyone else around me, because like everyone I was going to school with was like, everyone around me was like basically like a skinny dancer who like basically just like tons of rich kids, super entitled, who I kind of felt, I just felt like I needed to like be my own thing. And so like being the person who writes music, and eventually when I started throwing house shows there, and I felt like I almost adopted like a character a little bit when I was in that environment of like the songwriter. I wanted to be the rock star, I guess. And that like really helped me build a lot of confidence. I think that translated to like live performance for me. I learned a lot about like storytelling, just like, I feel like how to properly display emotion in a setting like that, how to break the rules. I don't know. I feel like it gave me like a lot of confidence, in a way that I can like access as someone who doesn't really have a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
So, you know, like for instance, I remember when I was writing the song Acrylic, I almost had this feeling of like, I don't like deserve to be like writing this song almost. I don't know. I think it just kind of helps me pretend I'm all right in a certain way. That's probably not the best way to.
I know. I totally understand what you're saying. Totally understand what you're saying.
But yeah, I think it like, I don't know. I think it helps me like pull something from nothing, particularly when like a lot of times when I'm like performing at shows, I'm really anxious about like being in crowds of people. So I feel like even almost pulling from almost a character to perform allows me to exist in it for the rest of the night and kind of just like.
And the character isn't too different.
No.
You know, it's just like.
It's a version of myself that's okay being around 50 people in a room right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I don't think I've ever perceived you as being anxious or anything but confident on stage. So that's a very good portrayal of that confident character.
That means a lot.
So talking about the new record, one of the conversations that we've had like through Instagram DMs is like whether or not it should be, you know, like one big record that comes out all at once or splitting it up. And it sounds like that the two of you have decided to kind of split the difference there, right? That it's going to be a double album.
That is correct.
That's correct.
So, and I think that you've kind of announced this on Twitter, right?
Wait,
like,
what are you talking about?
So what went into that decision?
It was funny. Matt already had like mentioned the idea of
I just presented it wrong when I was like,
it was sort of like it was just like the way you framed it. I had trouble understanding it at first, but you know, it was going to be like a big album, just one big album called A Preliminary Display of Tomorrow's Grievances.
It's going to be 35 songs.
It was going to be huge. And it was just like, we had trouble understanding how that was even going to translate the right way. So we decided to split it into two albums separated by a single. And so the release is going to go like this. On January 29th, A Preliminary Display will be released. And then the 30th, a track called Of, which is...
That's great.
Yeah. A track called Of represent album Purgatory. And on Bandcamp, you know, you can find more about what that will really mean in context of this album, because it's going to be a lot more conceptual than we've ever been. And then the 31st, Tomorrow's Grievances. And so both these two albums are separated by like tone and like kind of the song's topic and what they represent and what context they represent.
People are gonna have favorites. Yeah. Like definitely, I think what I'm excited for. This will be the most polarizing Eel People release yet.
Well, that's cool.
I'm very excited for people to be like, yo, absolutely hate this one. This one's better. You dude, this one's it's gonna be great.
Yeah. So
the songs that you've previewed so far, just to give me kind of a like context for what you mean by this, like where do the songs you've released so far, where do they fit into these two albums?
So
I believe all of them except
Sophia and Sex Doesn't Pay the Bills will not be making any appearance. So that single was sort of like a separate like little EP single type thing. But Terrifier, Don't Ask Me, and Just Being Optimistic are all tracks from the first album.
Although interesting thing about Terrifier is that the single version is an entirely different version than the one that's on the album.
That's the demo.
Yeah, it's it's slightly faster. It's in a different key. It is the same song, but it sounds like a lot.
It sounds way different in with the album version of it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm really excited to hear that.
Thanks.
Are you? And this is, I think I can't remember if I was talking with Matt or Rex about this. Is there ever any anxiety or worry that you release too much music?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I am told personally by people I in my life that there's simply so many cons to it, and I kind of just want to do it even more. Like when people tell me to like sort of release less music.
Oh wow!
Right. I just release more because I can't help it. I don't know. Like Matt, what
also, well, like okay, so yeah, one thing that people say to me a lot, and like. Is they'll be like, you release a lot of music, if you release so much music, how do you expect like people to listen to all of it? How do you expect to get streams? It's like, okay, I want people to listen to my music, but I didn't start making music because of streams.
Yeah.
I didn't,
this wasn't like this didn't start out as a marketing statement.
No, it's like songs. I want you to hear them. If you don't want to hear them, you don't have to play.
Exactly.
Like, so to all the time people will kind of say stuff like that. And I understand why people say it.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's just kind of like, if you're put off by like someone releasing a ton of music, it's like, you don't have to listen to, I mean, what was it? There was that band, was it King Gizzard?
Yeah.
Or something.
King Gizzard and the Lizard.
Yeah. They released like 7 albums or something last
in 1
year.
year. It was great. Yeah. And I was personally really moved by that.
I didn't listen to him, so I can't say if it was.
I thought it was really smart, and I thought, just because of the sound, because every album they made was entirely different. They changed so much style. It was really impressive in that case. And then there are times where there is maybe like a band that releases too much music, and it's only because it's almost the same style every time. But generally speaking, when I'm told to sort of calm down with how I release, to get less like kind of like trigger happy about releasing music, it's because people want you more when there's less of you available. Sure. A lot like that kind of philosophy about it. Like they want you more when there's really like one single out, and they love that single so much, and they want you to release more music, and you don't give it to them. That's sort of like this marketing strategy that I just can't, I can't do it. I just want to give. I want to keep giving music.
I mean, like, yeah, when people release music, like, especially in Connecticut, when I've like, met them before, and like, I'm like, oh, wow, this person who like, maybe I've met or maybe I haven't, like, decided to share a piece of themselves with me. And of course there's such a thing as sharing too much, but it's also like, I don't know. I feel like it's such an awesome thing. Like, even if someone releases something and I listen to it once, like, I think it's just like so sick when like music is just happening, especially like, cause
it's really cool.
One of the reasons that I think that, the work that you're doing is so incredibly important is because people act like we don't have a scene all the time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which is like a ridiculous statement.
No, but I think we all get it, like why people say that, right? Like it's fun to dunk on Connecticut,
Oh, of course, but like, I mean, you can dunk on any scene.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me. Yeah. I'm perfectly happy dunking on Philly and Queens.
Like, I love Boston, but I can totally dunk on the Boston singing.
All right, so I have a quick game for us. Because Eel People is a very famous duo, I have a list of several duos, and I want you to identify, both of you, who is who in the duo.
Okay.
All right, so the first one, I think this might be an easy one. Lennon versus McCartney.
Okay. That's all right.
I think we both want to be Paul.
Yeah. I think it's two Pauls. To be honest. It's just two Pauls.
Wait, no, that's a bad. We have to like answer the question.
Okay.
All right. I guess, well, okay, so they started as the Quarrymen, and I feel like one of them was there before the other one. So I feel like Paul was there first. So I feel like in that case, I would be John and you would be Paul.
Okay.
What about Lou Reed versus John Cale? I don't know if y'all like Velvet Underground or not.
Oh my God.
My God.
I'm very much inspired by Lou Reed. So
yeah,
I'd say that I would be Lou Reed.
That would make sense.
Just because of
just by default,
yeah.
So what about Simon and Garfunkel?
Ooh, I'm Simon. Yeah.
So of the two of you, who has the craziest hair? Because I feel like that might dictate who's Garfunkel.
Oh, that really depends on the day.
Yeah.
You know?
My hair's like a little longer, but like Matt's got this like across the universe thing going on right now.
I grow my hair until it's too long and then I cut it all off. So
I think Matt's got the craziest
hair. I still think
just because it's changing all the time.
Yeah, I still feel like I'm going to take Paul Simon on this one.
Yeah.
What about Hall & Oates?
Hall & Oates, honestly, I'm going to call myself out right now. It's not entirely my area of expertise.
Yeah.
I think that's actually like probably a smart move for your credibility.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like I could have just like made up an answer and like Oates. And then people have been like, wow, that's, it's the wrong answer. I wasn't going to bamboozle you.
Yeah.
What
about Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson?
Ooh, I feel like Rex is Sherlock Holmes because it's really fun. Because like all the time, like Rex will be like, Matt, I'm going to go like use the bathroom or something, try and like mix this and I'll come back. And Rex will be like, you messed something up and we need to figure out what it is. And we'll usually go on some sort of like puzzle where we'll figure out how we fix the song. I have absolutely like destroyed several Eel People mixes completely by accident. I'm like kryptonite to the Mac. Like it's bad.
Who's Tom and who's Jerry?
Ooh.
I feel like I'm always like trying to get a hold of you. So I
don't know. I just feel like I'm just like a rat that lives in your house sometimes. And I'm just like, music time, Yeah, I think you're Tom.
Yeah, I'm probably
Tom Jerry.
Who is Scooby-Doo and who is Shaggy?
Well, no, I'm definitely Scooby because like I don't have a license. And, only half of Eel People is licensed to drive. Interesting. It's trivia for you. Definitely, yeah. I'm certainly Scooby.
Yeah.
I like, bark at people and jump on things. It's problematic. So
Matt, we have to talk about that later. So
yeah.
Who is Han Solo and who is Chewbacca?
I feel like I can make some pretty interesting noises with my mouth. So like Chewbacca.
Just because vocally, yeah.
Yeah.
Who is peanut butter and who is jelly?
I think I'm peanut butter.
You think so?
I think you're the sweets.
Wait, no. Give me your argument for you. I understand that, but why are you people?
I feel like maybe sometimes with like what I intuitively do as a musician, it's a very like it's not, it's like
It sticks.
It's a little bit more. Well, I could also argue that yours is because of the anger that you sometimes exhibit. It's sort of like a salty, like thing, and maybe like I'm sort of more of like the sugary part. I don't know.
I am jelly because I'm very angry. Very angry person.
I'm telling is the next tweet. Yes, on people.
That's the next album. Preliminary display of tomorrow's grievances.
We're changing it to Jelly.
Yeah,
I'm Jelly.
The album title is Jelly. It's 100 songs. It's long.
This is the last one. Who is macaroni and who is cheese?
Oh, I'm definitely cheese.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How does that make sense?
I just like kind of like I don't know. I feel like I fill in a lot of spaces. I just
help
like
it
take up.
So good without the cheese, man.
But like I don't know. I feel like particularly if we're talking about Eel People and how Eel People started. Yes. First, you have the macaroni. The macarex, if you will, and then It's already tastes pretty good. The water was seasoned before, so you got a little dust. It's cooked perfectly, and now you just gotta throw some flavor, some bulk into it. And my chubby ass shows up, and we got cheese, macaroni and cheese.
All right. So the final question that I have, I always like to have like these kind of elaborate questions at the very end. We're going to assume that the zombie apocalypse is going to be in 2020. So for the zombie apocalypse, where do you go? Who are 3 people that you're going to want on your team? And who is going to survive the longest?
Austin from Night Crew definitely is number 1 on our team.
Immediately.
I'd say definitely you, because if we're trying to hide and stay anonymous, you seem to do a pretty good job.
Yeah, you know how to. Yeah.
So,
and then.
Oh wow, that's
hard. Yeah.
Who would be like a good third person?
Okay, so considering the specialties, then, so if I'm going to be good at hiding out, and I'm very honored to join this gang. What is Austin's specialty?
Oh, Austin's just like absolutely like securing the vibes.
Yeah, we need sure everyone's.
This is scary. Austin's just gonna keep us all like level-headed. Like
it's for morale.
Oh, 100%. So I guess we need someone who can like nurture us.
I mean, like, I feel like speaking of Night Crew, like Nate.
I was also gonna say Nate.
Feels really
I feel like Nate. Like Nate will.
Nate I feel like Nate knows what to do.
Yeah, I feel like Nate will protect me. Yeah. Yes, Nate of Night Crew and Cheam fame, and Good Enough Guys, and there's another message.
And I think he's actually going to sit in with Similar Kind whenever they play with Sunflower Bean at this space. Oh,
that's awesome.
Of course he is.
Yeah, obviously. That's great.
Shout out Similar Kind.
Oh yeah.
We do. We bump someone.
So where are we going to prepare for this apocalypse? I don't know if we answered that. That was like the first part.
Yeah. Ooh. So,
well, like, what's the? If you don't mind me asking, it's the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in Connecticut, right? I imagine that's the parameters. We probably have to it's probably got to be somewhere.
Maybe, but like if there's a better place you can think of, we just have to be able to get there.
I'm thinking like Hastings.
That's far.
England.
That's far. I feel like
we can figure it out.
I feel like somewhere like Saco, Maine. That's very specific, but Saco, Maine is where I would want to go.
Yeah. Is that kind of like an isolated place?
Not entirely. It's kind of like, for instance, if we were to go there now, there's a lot of like kind of like low end resorts and vacation spots there.
Okay.
So there would be a lot of like kind of like bunker type situations, and also many like convenience stores. I feel like you could loot.
Mm.
You know,
So out of the 5 of us, then who is going to last the longest?
I feel like I'd be like the first to like sacrifice myself for food.
No.
Not like just because I've always wondered what that would feel like.
I mean,
maybe I feel like Austin.
yeah.
Not that Austin's not a team player, but I feel like at one point he'd just be like, morale's too low, I'm getting out of here. I feel like Austin's not trying to die in the woods.
Pass, so they gotta like.
Well, I'm super happy that we ended on a positive note there.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
this was a wonderful interview.
Great. This was so fun.
Thank you so much to Matt Falkowski and Rex Thurstan of Eel People. It actually wasn't until after this interview was over that I realized I completely forgot to ask about Scary Oliver, which is Matt and Rex's other project with Emily Falkowski. They've released a few songs together that are super exciting. They're strange. They're very creative. And I know they're sitting on more tapes. So for the love of God, just go ahead and leak those already. A preliminary display of tomorrow's Grievances is set to come out at the end of January 2020, so go ahead and follow Eel People on Spotify, Bandcamp, etc., so that you can hear that record as soon as it drops in the cool fashion that you heard them mention. It's going to be a double album. You can find both Falkowski and Thurstan on the usual social media outlets, but they're probably most active, like most Connecticut musicians, on Instagram, so be sure to follow them there. And that's it. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.
I'll wake up to